First, to understand where we are today, which is the effects of the COVID-19 coronavirus on the planet Earth. What we know. So COVID-19, it was first detected in China. We now know that we had cases in the United States as of January. France has just analyzed old medical tests and discovered that there was someone sick with COVID-19 in France in late December. In Luxembourg, we can be quite certain, because of the country's small size, that COVID-19 first arrived on February 29th, 2020. Where we are in the USA. There was a state of emergency declared on March 13th by President Trump. This state of emergency was initially, we are talking about the travel regulations from the state of emergency here. This was for 30 days. So anyone that was not a US person who had been in the last 2 weeks in a certain list of countries could not come to the USA. Many people believed that that meant that flights ended as of that day. That is not the case. There are flights entering the United States. There are dozens of flights entering the United States from Europe at this time. However, it is not possible for non-United States people to come on those flights. One thing to understand, both from the Brazilian and the United States perspective, our countries are federated, and the regulations for quarantine and the safety measures for COVID-19 are at the local level and change from place to place. Luxembourg, on the other hand, is a centralized state and not a federal state. That is to say that the decisions coming from the national government cover the entire country. What has happened in Luxembourg? Luxembourg has enacted a state of crisis, which is the term that they use equivalent to state of emergency. Measures telling people to stay at home or to be in confinement quarantine started on March 18th, before the start of the state of crisis. A law was passed through the National Assembly, the Parliament, and was approved by the Grand Duke on March 24th. The state of crisis will last for 3 months from that point, so until June 24th. Luxembourg, as part of this, has never closed its borders as part of their state of crisis, but all of the countries bordering Luxembourg have closed their borders going into Luxembourg in the past. What measures were taken in Luxembourg? Luxembourg has a very strict lockdown compared to what is occurring in the Americas. That is covering the entire nation. Practically all businesses besides pharmacies and supermarkets were forced to close. There was an extremely high penalty for being out in public in Luxembourg during the first part of confinement. That fine could be as high as 10,000 euros for being on the street. As part of this, government offices had to close, and they are still at this time not receiving public visitors. Just to give you an idea, so today Luxembourg has announced that the 100th person in Luxembourg has passed away from COVID-19. What we do know there is that 1 out of every 205 people has tested positive for COVID-19. In comparison, the United States at 553 times its size, 1 out of every 364 people have tested positive in the USA. However, Luxembourg has been much more proactive when it comes to testing. We see the difference when we recognize that 1 out of every 7,222 people in Luxembourg has passed away from COVID-19, whereas 1 out of every 6,410 Americans has passed away from COVID-19. As I said, Luxembourg has had 100 people pass away, but they have controlled the situation well via a very strict quarantine measure. Because they began to see positive results, and because they closed more things than many other countries, they began exiting the quarantine at an earlier date than other places. It was interesting to follow Luxembourg because they're actually showing a model for how other European countries are taking the process. So back on April 20th, they began allowing certain stores and construction sites to reopen. If you have been to Luxembourg, you know that it is one big construction site. So this was, frankly, a big deal in Luxembourg. Overall, the exit from the coronavirus lockdown in Luxembourg is planned based on 3-week increments. And these increments all come with changes. But one of the first measures was wearing a mask is mandatory in public places. While you do not have to wear a mask in Luxembourg walking by yourself on the street, if you are in a space shared with other people, it is mandatory to wear a mask, and there are fines if you do not wear a mask. Luxembourg is at the point today where there are around 10 to 12 people falling sick with coronavirus each day. Now there are from 0 to 2 deaths per day in Luxembourg. Starting on May 11th, Luxembourg enters the next phase in its exit strategy. And the signs are good compared to other places. Luxembourg will allow 6 people to meet indoors, and they will allow 20 people to meet outdoors as long as they are wearing masks. More businesses and offices, including non-essential businesses, are starting to be allowed to welcome workers back to the office. The government in Luxembourg is also giving 55 masks to each individual over 16 years of age living in or working in Luxembourg, which personally I find very admirable. The next important date in the end of the coronavirus lockdown will be June 1st. And we are unsure of what happens at that time, but we do know that restaurants and other businesses may open at that time. We also know that all major events are canceled in Luxembourg through July 28th. This does include the national holiday on June 23rd, as well as the music festival that occurs at the same time. It also, unfortunately, cancels the Schuberfahrt, which is pardon me, which is one of the world's oldest fairs. It's over 630 years old, and it's a major event in Luxembourg in August. And the fact that the city of Luxembourg canceled the fair indicates that they do not plan to hold public events as late as August. What does that mean for us that are applying for citizenship? There are two offices that matter to you when you apply for citizenship. Practically speaking, those under Article 89 going to sign their declaration must go to the Berger Center, which is the city office for Luxembourg City. That office is open, but it is not processing citizenship applications at this time. They have stated that they do not know when they will reopen, although it seems that the June 1st date in the exit strategy for the coronavirus could be a possible date when the office would reopen for citizenship declarations, but we do not know. They do not know. The Ministry of Justice is the other competent office for citizenship applications. No one can visit the Ministry of Justice from the public right now, but they are working. However, it's unclear how many people are working. What we do know is that our clients are still receiving certificates from Luxembourg. It's very difficult to reach them via email or telephone, but they are working, and that is important to know.